That is, I have made 165 videos on my YouTube channel, and I had never made a video talking about this thing before, but we are joking. In SketchUp, there are three fundamental basic principles that you absolutely need to know, in my opinion. Otherwise, you can't really do much. You can't practically do anything, especially for those who come from AutoCAD or other software where these concepts simply do not exist. So I called them. At some point, I stood there and said, no, okay, there are three, these are them. I named them the three principles of SketchUp, not written elsewhere, in the sense that I can't see the software, but even in my manual or when I wrote my manual, I truly faced the problem of giving them a name to these three concepts. If you talk to anyone who has used SketchUp for years, they'll tell you the same thing. Actually, if you don't consider these three rules, you won't get far. And what are they? These are the three. I even put a name on them. And then there is a 0, 0, beginning and ending, a bit like in thermodynamics, right? I obsessed with physics, math, principle 1, 2, 3, and then the 0 principle we see at the end. I gave him a name then. Let's start. Let's see it immediately. Meanwhile, in this file, I put some cute post-its. Do you like them? What am I there as reminders in this sample file that I use during my courses? So closed perimeters create faces every time we close. A perimeter of lines faces appear. That is, I have made 165 videos on my YouTube channel. I had never made a video talking about this thing, but we are joking. That is sometimes really obvious things, but well, it becomes a bit obvious after a few years of using SketchUp, doesn't it? However, well, you must familiarize yourself with these concepts. So when I need a face or two, all I do is draw a line. And one says, well, but damn it, lines, but how do I draw, redraw, make overlapping lines? Lines intersect. Principle number 2. The geometries break each other. That is, it's not like in AutoCAD where if I draw two lines, one crossing the other, they are still two lines. No, here they become 4 pieces, 4 segments, so I can eliminate this, I can eliminate this. Attention, these principles should be seen not as limitations. Of course, they are behaviors within the design that we exploit to our advantage and are part of the intuitiveness of SketchUp. This means that where you have to create a shape, an extrusion, a new wall or a window, you simply draw a line and extrude. That is, with the line, you push and pull. And it is really true that you can do everything using those few basic tools in SketchUp, leveraging their various nuances and capabilities to achieve your desired outcomes. I don't dwell on this now though. Move at least 4 different uses, depending on the combination of keys I use. Rotate, follow me, climb. That is, everyone has various diverse uses. Staying on the fact that the geometries break each other, if I draw a rectangle here, I take a push rod, go to the opposite side, I made my window. So it's not that I necessarily have to do subtractions, booleans, modifications, crazy. No, just knowing the basic principles of SketchUp and using them continuously, then you really take them for granted. Number 3, the geometries are glued. The glued geometries, that is not. Is it surprising if I make a room, me who does it at the speed of light, then I draw a wall, I mean a wardrobe, something that has happened to me a million times, people who write to me, contact me, but why? But what is happening? What is not happening? It's clear that I can't move this wardrobe. Obviously, it's a draft, right? It's clear that I can't move it without detaching it from the wall because in SketchUp, there's this concept of base where geometries stick, which someone from AutoCAD probably stays. He says, no madness, how can I work? But that's not the point, I mean. And in a moment, we'll arrive at 0 principle that solves and clarifies a bit all the logic. Geometries glued together, generated in our favor, like when making roof slopes, drawing a line and pulling it up. I possess an armchair that I have utilized in a countless number and more instances in my different classes. No, if I make a simplified armchair and then I want to turn it into a sofa, move. What is this called in AutoCAD? Iron. Magical tool that I have loved on many occasions. I could tell you about the advantages and disadvantages because I happen to expand an entire condominium complex. Stop the lights where you think you're going. Of the exec. Among other things, of an entire condo, stretched in AutoCAD in past years. I loved it, allows stretching. Here in SketchUp, it works like this, understood? Faces appear, these faces I then break, cut them, they are very simple lines. Then I stretch the geometries, shorten them, simply deform them by moving them, and so the zero principle is this, making groups and components. A whole scene, a whole project without me having to open super complicated projects here. It can also be for the simplest thing, maybe I am a carpenter, a hobbyist who likes to work with wood. As the undersigned, I have to draw this chair with all the various pieces and little pieces to cut and not to cut, or I am doing the most complex and sophisticated project. This morning I happened to open a kind of stadium made in every detail, a crazy thing, a very complicated file, but it was organized, it was still so full of objects that it was impossible to move, agreed, but it was well organized. Instead, if I leave everything as free geometries, I will definitely make the box that receives the file go around a bit. A colleague, if I reopen it maybe after years, if the client asks me for changes, if I want to make the estimate, it's a disaster. A file like this one on the right is unusable. This model here on the right, again, if I wanted to move something, assuming I can do it, I would make a mess because all the various geometries are adjacent to each other. So when I finished doing even the most basic objects like a sofa, I performed a triple click, followed by a right click, and then selected the Create Group option. Additionally, I utilized the Create Component function, which enabled me to isolate these face and line shapes from everything else in the surrounding design. If at this point I sketch a room, let's assume below this sofa in this area, then I can easily move this sofa around the room. While and I explode it. If he tries now that I exploded it, clearly the lines of the sofa have stuck to those of the room. So I recommend making groups and components. I won't go into detail now. There are video courses or not, online videos, manuals, books, blog articles that talk about it. So I'm not here now to dwell on the differences between groups and components, but it's essential and we can do it at the same time. So in addition to having a well-organized model from which I can extract a computation with groups, components, I can really make a flat organism. On the other hand, I can exploit these three basic principles that I mentioned before and therefore work in peace and enjoy SketchUp in all its freshness. Hello.